Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This week's Parsha is Parsha Va'era. It's the second Parsha in the book of Shemot, in the book of Exodus. So if we remember at the end of last week's Parsha, Moshe is a shepherd out in the field, in the desert of Midian with his sheep, and he sees a bush that is burning, but is not being consumed by the fire. This is, of course, the burning bush. God speaks to him through this fire, saying, Moshe, the Jewish people, Bnei Israel, the children of Israel are suffering in Egypt, and I can watch it no longer. You are going to free them. And Moshe, like we talked about last week, is very deflective. He's like, I have a stutter, or I have a difficult way of expressing myself. Whatever it is, we don't know exactly what his difficulty was. Moshe is telling God, like, why should I be the speaker? And of course, like we learned last week, God essentially says, it is because of your imperfections. Don't you know that I know these things about you? It's not news to me. I wouldn't have come to you if I didn't think you were worthy of doing this. So Aaron, Moshe's brother, is appointed as Moshe's spokesperson. So Moshe is kind of like the brains behind everything, and Aaron is going to go speak to the Jewish people. So God says, go to the Jewish people, tell them what's going to happen, that they're going to be redeemed, and then go to Pharaoh. But know that I will harden Pharaoh's heart so that he will say no. This is something that I think maybe I just didn't notice it, maybe I didn't realize what it was saying, that Moshe and Aaron knew from the beginning that the first saying, hey, God's going to do some crazy things, Pharaoh, wouldn't convince Pharaoh. I don't know why that didn't make sense to me. Now I realize that Moshe and Aaron knew they were going to be disappointed that first time. And then we'll come back to this. So Moshe and Aaron first go to the Jewish people and say, God is going to deliver us. I look at these miracles that God told us we could do to prove it to you. And Bnei Israel is like, the children of Israel, like, great, we believe you, we're here for it, yes. And so then Moshe and Aaron go to Pharaoh. And when they go to Pharaoh, unsurprisingly, he says no. But not only does he say no, he makes the labor even worse on Bnei Israel. And Moshe, along with the rest of Bnei Israel, is very upset. Now, I can understand that Bnei Israel is upset. They were just told they're going to be redeemed. Moshe goes, and the work gets even harder. They're even more sad. They're even more tired now. But Moshe also gets upset that the work is harder. He thought that at least things would get a little bit better. He didn't think that it would be it. He knew that, God had told them that this was not going to be the end of the children of Israel in Egypt, but he didn't think it would get worse. And I think this is something that kind of relates to the way that we put expectations on ourselves. Moshe knew from the beginning that this was not going to be the deliverance, but he had an idea in his mind, like, okay, but it'll be better. And when it didn't happen, he was very upset. I feel like in a lot of situations, we have this preconceived notion of what things are going to turn out to be, even if we are like kind of at the beginning, like, maybe I should have a conservative view on this. Maybe things won't be as great as I think they are. Or maybe they won't be as bad as I think they are. But we still have these in the back of our minds. We're still like, but maybe it could be perfect. Maybe it could be the thing. So I don't know. I guess it's just a matter of managing our expectations. But God does something very validating and kind to Moshe. Moshe says, since you brought me to Pharaoh to speak to him, things have just gotten worse. And what God says immediately, he says, soon you will see deliverance. You will see what I will do to Pharaoh. Pharaoh will drive you out of the land. So Moshe just said, Pharaoh's doing bad things. I can't believe you made me do this. And God responds immediately saying, don't worry. I know this is coming soon. Do not worry. But you will see Pharaoh himself will be the one to let you go. Of course, God is behind the scenes pulling the strings. But the idea that Pharaoh, someone who hates the Jews, someone who hates God, someone who hates, all things that are good, would be the one to assist in the deliverance. That's what the true miracle is. And that's what God is showing Moshe. Like, oh, you think it's crazy now? Pharaoh just made things so much worse on you. Well, you'll see by the end of this, I am such a great God that you will see it will all be okay. So I guess the idea here is to manage our expectations, think about the future in a realistic terms, and don't, have these ideas in our mind that cloud the actual result. And then also, when someone expresses something to us, we should validate exactly what they're saying. And not just, say something to placate them for the moment. God could have just said, I am a great God, trust me, why aren't you trusting me? But he placates Moshe. He says something that's validating and kind. In this week's Parsha, we have 7 of the 10 plagues. So it's blood, frogs, lice, pestilence, and wild beasts. And then before the 6th plague, the plague of boils, God has to actually harden Pharaoh's heart that 6th time. Okay, so if God needed to intervene and make Pharaoh say no that 6th time, wouldn't it have been, isn't that pointless? Why did God intervene? Why wouldn't God just let Pharaoh say, no, you can go now? It wasn't because God wanted to punish Pharaoh and do the rest of the plagues. It was that God wanted to prove to Bnei Israel, to show them the incredible miracles and wonders, to convince them to trust him, to trust in God, and to believe that what he says he will do. And this is a really cool idea. The language is specific. So at the beginning, it's like, Paro hardens his own heart, and the next time it's God hardens Pharaoh's heart. You see it specifically. You see exactly where it happens, and this is done to encourage the people of Israel, to encourage them to believe in God. So just some nice interpersonal ideas for this week. Shabbat shalom, everyone.